Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Callie, and here I kind of keep it random, but good news is I am working on honing this channel into something more specific, and I will be getting ready for that to be rolling in the beginning of this coming year. So that's exciting. If you're interested in the things that I have to share with you, you can go ahead and subscribe. Basically, I just share what I find out in my journey, my experiences, different things like that. I hope that my journey and my experiences can eventually help other people going through similar things. With that said, I'm going to get right into it. For those of you who don't know, I'm sure everybody does, but today is 12/12/12, all right, numerologically, right, which kind of boils down to a 333, and that's actually a really powerful number. So, with that said, tonight's full moon is very, very strong, very, very powerful, okay? It said that this new moon is going to be clearing 10 years of karma, okay? 10 years. That's a long, long time, all right? For me, that puts me back to when I was 18, and I will get into that for a minute. I just wanted to let you guys know that this is the last full moon of the decade. Like, how cool is that? It's pretty cool if you ask me. Last full moon of 2019, last full moon of the 2010s. We're going into 2020. That's really exciting. I know personally, I'm here with the guardian, Mr. Manticore Azul. He has an itchy ear, but I know that 2020 is going to be a great year for a lot of people. So that's really exciting. There's a lot of fear going on out there, but you have to remember, you know, what you believe will happen. So I believe and I know that it's going to be a great year. So yes, with that said, this 12/12, so today, there's like a 10-day portal pretty much open until December 21st, all right? And a portal is just a time where energy is very strong, all right? So if you have any closure, detoxing, decluttering, apologies, forgiveness, you know, if you want any cycles to end, if you want to cleanse from the past at all, now is the time to kind of get that ball rolling. And in my journey, I've learned not to kind of dwell too much on the past. You know, I've done a lot of transmutation, which is a form of healing by releasing trapped emotion from really traumatic experiences, which I'll be doing more videos on that very soon. You know, because that's kind of something I'm very passionate about. And so yeah, it's something I love to help people with, and it's something that I have been helped tremendously with, and so it's something I like to pay it forward. With that said, yeah, this is a really powerful time, and clearing 10 years of karma, like, I'm ready, because, you know, when I was 18, that was a very pivotal time for me. It was a very painful time for me. When I was 18, I entered into my third and last very, very, very abusive relationship, and it resulted in the death of my dog. My ex was pretty much like mentally just, you know, I have a lot of understanding, and people probably think I'm a little crazy, but it's like the way he was raised, dogs were just like nothing, you know. Had I known the way his family treated dogs, you know, had I known how abusive, you know, how abusive of a family he was raised in, had I known a lot of things about him, I think, you know, I would have went about everything different. But what they say, you know, hindsight is 2020. So yeah, it just didn't happen that way, and I had to lose my baby to really learn some lessons. And if you watch my videos, I've talked about a time where the ego of mine, the ego, it's not even my ego, but the ego really just took over. And I remember what it said. It said, B, you can't handle this. I will take over from here, and I will make sure no one ever touches you again. And no one ever did touch me again. And that was my last terrible, abusive, it was my last physically abusive relationship, but it was the beginning of 7 years of me being pretty much a raging drug addict, okay? And so it was like a bittersweet thing, kind of bitter. Well, no, bittersweet, I wasn't in any more physically abusive relationships, but 7 years of, being heavy into pain, pretty much opiates and forget-me-nots. It was a really tough time. It was dark days. From the time I was 18 till about the time I was 26. And so a lot of really crazy stuff happened. I am very lucky to be alive, to be honest with you. I'm very blessed all around that I've not only had the family support, but the, ability to keep my head above water, and just being fortunate enough that my journey didn't end as terrible as a lot of people's do, because, people overdose every day, people end up on the streets every day, people have to resort to doing things that compromise their morality and things like that every single day. And I'm sure there's alternative realities where who knows what happened to the girl I was. But luckily I'm here today, thankfully, gratefully. I am grateful for it every day. And I learned so much, and through my journey of getting sober, I feel as though I have, connected to an incredible faith, not only within myself, but within the universe. The universe speaks very loudly to me, and it is a beautiful thing. Not always do I have, the confidence, I suppose you could say, to, really listen, but I am divinely favored, and I think it could be just a matter of perspective. When I was like a really bad drug addict, I used to look at life and, think people were terrible. I used to think situations were terrible. Everything was just so bad, terrible. This was bad, that was bad, this was bad. It was, like 2009 to 2012 for me was just so terrible. Like, I was gone. I never thought I would come back. My poor family, I feel so bad for them, because I pretty much was proud of who I was, how I was. I said, you know what, this is who I am. I'm a drug addict. This is how I'm gonna be. You take it or leave it, because I'm not changing. And it's something that I actually, like, for me, I'm not gonna do something and hide it. I'm not gonna do something and be ashamed of it. So that was the lifestyle I chose. It was something I was very verbal about. Like, hey, this is me. What up? This is how I cope. You can't deal. Peace. That was the mentality that I had. So, like I said, I'm very blessed. My family stuck by me and just always was there to support and encourage me and love me. And mom, dad, sister, my sister, my younger siblings, you guys, I really do apologize you had to even see that, because it is not like the character that I truly am deep to my core. So it was my way of dealing with extreme emotion, after Addie disappeared. After she disappeared, I couldn't even face myself. I couldn't feel, that grief was so immense. And every morning I woke up crying, and just the pain was just so unbearable. I couldn't I couldn't feel that pain and keep my sanity. So I am a firm believer the ego takes over when it has to spare our sanity, especially in extreme situations of trauma. So I was, in a way lucky. But it was really hard and still is kind of a battle to keep and get back control of myself. But I like to think I won the battle, as far as from 2009 to 2012, I had no intention of ever getting sober. I had no intention of ever changing. I was gonna die like that. I was okay with dying like that. And heck, if I was lucky, I was gonna die soon. And I met a guy who, I like to, in my experience, we kind of meet people on the same vibrational resonance as us. So I was like a really depressed and extremely traumatized person. So I met a very depressed and extremely traumatized person. And we pretty much met in our darkness. We met in very dark times, and, we would pretty much, we had this bet going who was gonna die first. I know it sounds pretty sick, but that was just the mindset we both were in. He was a very traumatized individual, unlike any person I ever seen before. Coming where I come from, a small town where all you have is pretty much bars, I thought I knew what alcoholism was, but it wasn't until I met this guy that I saw what an actual alcoholic was. And I'll tell you what, right now, not only was he an alcoholic, but he would self-mutilate himself. He would hurt himself really bad. And I walked in on him one time, just pretty much going at his wrists in a very, very violent way, and I was shocked because I never was a physical pain type person. I don't like pain. I will run from pain, inadvertently running from pleasure at the same time, because that's how it works. If you run from pain, you run from pleasure. But that's me. I run from all of that. It's not something I try to experience. And in my sobriety, I realized this, so I would try to force myself to feel pain because, I want to feel pleasure too. I want to enjoy life. I want to feel joy and happiness and things like that. So, but what happened, when I was in this house, pretty much it was the house of broken dreams. They were musicians. They were good musicians too, his father and him. And his father's dreams, never came true, and neither did his. He actually played in a band, and they were locally known, and then all of a sudden their guitarist, their electric guitarist, ended up dying, and it was devastating to all of them, and that place became an even darker place, because now his dreams were shattered. And I remember we would always hang out in the basement and just talk about philosophy and conspiracies and things like that, and it got to the point where I saw him go to such a dark place that it immediately turned me around. I was like, okay, mate, I thought I was in a dark place, but it turns out I'm not in that dark of a place, and I don't think I could ever go to that dark of a place. I don't really think I could ever get there where he was. So it kind of I did kind of a 180. It wasn't just that. In 2012 is when I was gifted with Mr. Monty, my loving guardian of my heart, guardian of my physical body, guardian of my soul, my Thomas, my twin. Thomas means twin, for those of you who don't know. But when I got him, you gotta remember, well, I don't think I ever told anybody this, but after 2009, after about 4 years of heavy drug use, my pancreas started to shut down. And not only that, my lungs started to get very inflamed, and I would actually not be able to breathe. And I spent a lot of time in the hospital. Every 2 months or 3 months, I would end up in ICU because I couldn't breathe. I couldn't walk up 3 steps without having a complete asthma attack, and it was just a really bad time, you know. I was 21, doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, and so yeah, basically I was killing myself, and I got Monty, and I knew what I was doing. You know, when you do things certain ways, it's gonna have a negative effect on, you know, your lungs, and obviously my pancreas couldn't process the stuff anymore. So when I got Monty, I ended up going to the hospital one more time, and he had to stay with my family, and I remember just being so devastated that I was away from him, that I, you know, quit doing certain things certain ways, right? I have to be kind of cryptic because I don't want to, you know, like inadvertently promote anything. So a lot of you may know what I'm talking about. I guess you could use like a little common sense. My lungs, asthma is gunk and buildup of the lungs, so I had to clear out my lungs, and I did. And I decided to, you know, try to get sober, and I started journaling. My mom had actually bought me a diary in 2012, and that is when I started journaling. And it's amazing because the whole journal, it lasted 5 years, and then I filled it up. I got a new one, but it shows, you know, my psyche and how my psyche evolved and changed over time, and how I always had this little voice within me that was guiding me and knew exactly what to do, and all I had to do was follow it. And you know, in time I did. It didn't happen overnight. It definitely was a journey. It took me 4 years of actually trying so hard to get sober, you know, because I had to deal with first the pain I was running from, and that was not easy. You know, that I was in a lot of really abusive relationships, basically because I witnessed my mother be in abusive relationships, and we tend to repeat cycles that we experience as a way of trying to process the trauma, but if you're not aware, you'll just keep going through the same trauma over and over and over again. I was really blessed to have the hindsight, I guess, to realize what I was doing, and, you know, to kind of stop that. And so I got to move on to new cycles of learning, and yeah, rough times. But first I had to deal with the emotional pain. That was really, really hard. You know, I pretty much went back and tried to make peace with all the pain and all the people who had hurt me really bad. And, you know, then I had to really deal with the mental aspect because, like I said, I had this mentality, everything sucked, life sucked, this, that, it was terrible, and that's all I would really encounter in life. So as I started to shift my mentality, my reality started to shift too, and I started to experience, you know, like really beautiful things in life, and I started to believe life was really beautiful. And, you know, people thought I was crazy and I guess I can see it's because I kind of went from two extremes, life really sucks, to wait, this is such a gift, and life is beautiful, earth is beautiful. And yeah, so I dealt with the emotional part of addiction, then the mental part of the addiction, learning about how my mind worked, how addiction works with the mind, like the psychology behind addiction really helped me in being able to quit. And then there was the physical side of addiction, which, if I'm being honest, the physical side was probably the hardest, because when you're withdrawing from, you know, heavy narcotics, you don't feel good at all. And I already said I was someone who ran away from pain, so like puking, throwing up, hot and cold, it wasn't something that like I really could mentally, I had the mental strength to go through. People who can do the cold turkey thing, I really commend them because they are very strong-willed. I couldn't do that, so I tried so many things and nothing really worked until I found Kratom. And I have videos you guys can search about, Kratom for addiction and why I quit taking Kratom, why I started Kratom, how Kratom helped me, things like that. And it did, and I was on that for about 4 months. And so yeah, I was 26 at the time that I found Kratom, and so it's been a wild ride, but I'm definitely looking forward to these things, finally getting past all of it and it clearing. And I think now I've found a more realistic view on life. Like, life is really, really beautiful, but there's a lot of terrible things going on in the world, and I do realize it's not beautiful for everybody, and that's a shame because I really feel as though it should be. And if I have anything to say about it or do about it, that's one of my goals in my lifetime, is to try to help as many people as I can. I've been, in a sense, called to start basically an emotional trauma center, but I guess anyone with physical trauma too, where, not just me, but a team of people can help people process. Because, I know they have psychologists and therapists and things like that, but in my experience, it's all like pieces of the puzzle. No one really has the full picture. And I guess that's what a shaman is. They take the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual side of things and try to bring about healing in a very balanced and full spectrum way. But that's something, in case you guys, didn't know that about me. That's one of my dreams and goals. I have high hopes, right? A lot of ambition. So, yeah, with that said, I'm really excited about the last 10 years kind of clearing out. It's hard to really understand cycles if you don't know much about astrology. And I do like different astrology readings for people. I do their charts and things like that, and I always find it interesting how charts, like astrology, is always right on the money. Like, I'll do people's charts and they'll be like, wow, this has been so helpful, I can't believe everything you said was true. And even doing my own chart, it's like we're bound and restricted by it until we have the awareness. Obviously, once we have the awareness, we can be whatever we want to be. You're not limited by your astrology chart if you understand your astrology chart. So, learning that was a really, really powerful thing for me. But yeah, other than that, this is probably a longer video than what I expected. I'm actually having this huge issue with my computer right now. So after my last physically abusive relationship, I entered into abuse of a whole different kind. And pretty much this relationship was to help me deal with my childhood trauma and things like that. It was very abusive in a whole different way. Pretty much he liked to, he met me when I was a drug addict, and I was so naive, and I just adored him so much. And his thing was kind of meeting really weak women, not weak women, but he had like, before me there was a meth addict and an alcoholic and a cokehead, just a lot of different drugs that he women who did these and that he entered in relationships with, I think because it made him feel better about his own self, because he had some serious demons that he was dealing with. And In fact, I actually had some dreams where he shape-shifted into a demon, but that's a story for a whole nother time. Either way, when we were together, we started a business together, which I will talk about in my video tomorrow. I'll be telling you guys why I left the marijuana industry. Alright, I'm from Michigan. I was a marijuana cultivator for about 5 years. So, if you guys want to check that out, I'll be posting that tomorrow. Why I left the marijuana industry. Michigan just went wreck, so it's kind of bittersweet, you know, because they gave it up to big corps, and now people who need the medicine cannot even afford it. So anyway, I got a computer when we were together, and he was actually a computer technician, right? And I had no idea, like, all the stuff you could do with the computer. He had told me that he had keylogged some of his ex-girlfriend's computers, but I didn't really care at the time because, like, I had nothing to hide. But I didn't know that you could actually remote hack a computer. And what he did was he hooked my computer's network up to his computer. And so anytime my computer is online, it automatically is viewable to him. He has all access to my computer. And I know. You guys have to understand, this relationship was so terribly toxic because he only saw the outside. You know, he didn't care about my internal side at all. And when we broke up, I remember us, you know, trying to get back together. And one day he literally said to me, I like you 100% on the outside, but only like 30% on the inside. Seriously? Like, the outside doesn't matter at all. And it really just, like, killed me because for my whole life, a lot of people have only saw the outside. No one cared about the inside. No one cared about that at all until I met my partner now. And it's like, no. Everything in my fiber, every fiber in my being, you know, said, you gotta let this go. And it was hard because I essentially had to walk away from everything. You know, I wasn't going to sit there and fight him for the house. I wasn't going to sit there and fight him for the business. I wasn't going to fight him, you know. I cared more about myself than that, and I cared more about just in general. I wasn't going to do that, you know. So I literally, and it's the best thing I ever did. It really is, you know. Sure, life got a little difficult. You know, I ended up living in my car for a minute and all that fun stuff, but it's just experience, and there's not a day that I wish I could go back. So, but yeah, I gotta figure out what to do with my computer. I know I have to like factory reset it, but I can't at the moment because I gotta get an external hard drive and, you know, do a bunch of technological stuff that. So yeah, I'm kind of like trying to stay off of my computer, keep it off the Wi-Fi, so you'll see a lot of my videos are just uploaded straight from my phone. Yeah, so 10 years, like those years can definitely be cleared. I'm ready for that because, you know, as crazy, those were some really painful times too, you know, because even though he knew I was essentially a drug addict, he still made me feel terrible every day about it. You know, just when you love someone who doesn't love you back, who doesn't even like you, and who just talks to you terrible and treats you mean, it is one of the most horrible things to go through. And I remember crying myself to sleep literally every single night. And why it was a good thing is because now I have the strongest self-comforting voice within me. You know, like, if I get a little emotional, I have a voice that's like, hey, whoa, it's okay. You're gonna be okay. Calm down. Like, essentially, I can hug myself. I can self-soothe very well thanks to that relationship. So I'm actually happy that I learned these techniques because they're really helpful. Before, I was so dependent on someone outside of me to give me comfort, to help soothe me, because I didn't know how to do that for myself. So, you know, emotionally, I was always a wreck. And so yeah, learning how to balance all that out was really, really nice. And now I'm actually really good at it, except I might be a little too guarded, a little too protected now. But I'm working on, you know, being more open and loving and less guarded when I have to be to who, you know I'm safe with. So that's in a way why I think, you know, like having kids is really amazing, because they teach you how to like really love not just them, but how to really love yourself again, you know, because imagine you're that child, you know, how are you going to treat that child? That's how you should be treating yourself, you know, really kind, loving, nurturing. And I say that, but it's actually really hard. A lot of people take care of everyone else but themselves, and yeah, something I realized recently, I've been dealing with like a lot of low self-worth, you know. From time to time, I don't know if this is healthy or not, but I will go back into my journal and I'll read, just so I can kind of transmutate some of that pain that I was feeling at the time. And I came across this entry where I said, like, I don't know why anyone would ever love me. Like, I have so many faults, and I don't see any qualities that people could love about me. And reading that, you know, recently kind of took me off guard, because, like, I have a lot of confidence now, but there's still, you know, that part of me that was her, that was feeling those ways. And since I had never acknowledged it, it's almost like she still lives within me. So going back and forth between feeling a lot of faith, a lot of confidence, to feeling, you know, unworthy of love is a crazy thing. And, you know, I have gotten a lot of messages basically, you know, because after I read that, I'll just give you guys a little tidbit. This is really long, and I don't want to make it too long, but after reading that, I did a meditation, because I was just really taken back by it. And in the meditation, I was like hanging on this cliff, and then I started to fall, and I was falling through all these different dimensions. And, you know, I wasn't scared, because I knew I couldn't die, but I just said, like, wow, how long can I fall for? And a voice came in, and it was like, how long is eternity? And I was like, oh, eternity is a really long time. I don't want to fall for eternity. And then I heard the word, or the name, Amanda. And so I stopped, you know, what I was doing, and I Googled the name Amanda, and it actually means worthy of love. So it was kind of like a really beautiful moment. And yeah. So yeah, we're all Amandas. Everyone is an Amanda. We're all very worthy of love. And I'm worthy of love. You're worthy of love. And if you ever feel like you're not, just remember you are, you know. Earth is hard. Earth is a very hard plane, and, you know, being so disconnected from love is really hard. But you have to kind of find that love and bring it out of yourself, because it's in there. It's in there, and it's waiting for you to just reach in and grab it. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to end this here, because this is probably my longest video ever. And if you made it to the end, I'm like so proud of you and appreciate it. So yeah, anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If I said anything that, you know, strikes your interest. Hello to, you know, all the people that I've talked to. I definitely miss interacting. I know I haven't been doing a lot of videos, so that will change. I'm working on getting my roll back. So yeah. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful night. Take advantage, if you can, of these next 10 days. Clear stuff out. Organize. That's what I'm doing. I'm clearing. I'm organizing. I'm ready for 2020. I'm so ready for this new energy to come in and revitalize my soul. So yeah. Alright, you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful night, and I will see you guys next time.